Well, we're here. You say hi first tonight.
Okay, well...
I'm always saying hello first.
Well...
You should say hello first every once in a while.
All right, well, I'm saying hello now. And hi, everybody. And I'm happy to see that all of you... we're both happy to see that all of you are out there. I guess you took a look at the political bandying on the networks
can we
a few minutes ago, and now you're
here to hear us.
Now you're here to hear us talk for a little bit.
We're going to give you the meteorological response.
Yeah. Joe Rayo, Fios 1 News, Lower Hudson Valley, and...
I'm opposed to you being Joe Rayo, Fios 1 News, Hudson Valley.
You can call me anything you want to call me, Joe.
Joe Cioffi, Fios 1 News, Long Island, and Fios 1 News, New Jersey, on a night where I heard from a friend of mine who I fish with every once in a great while, Derek Wood, up in Halstead, Pennsylvania, which is not too far. It's right near the New York state line, not too far from Binghamton. And he posted about, with an exclamation point, about thunder in January. And don't be surprised if you hear some thunder in a little while as this stuff starts moving out of Pennsylvania and moving through here.
Well, as I was talking in the newsroom to a few of our colleagues, and I said, well, we're just going to trade off showers and the rumbles of thunder and the patchy areas of dense fog. We'll trade that off now for a couple of days of rather strong and gusty winds to over 35 miles per hour and a progression toward colder weather. We said that the cold weather was a-coming, and it's coming. And it's a-coming.
And there's your the radar. This is the Upton radar, so we can take the view here and the approaching thunderstorms, showers, and maybe even some rumbles of thunder in there and some of the yellow echoes you see. Just kind of moving right along, so should be hitting the western border of New Jersey by 10 o'clock and maybe reaching New York City by about 11 and a little bit after that on Long Island.
Pretty potent frontal line, and
let me see if I got the regional shot here. Keep going.
Out ahead of that front, again, we have those showers. We've already had, well, they're the forerunners of the front during the course of the afternoon and evening. We've had some hit or miss, locally hard shower activity and downpours here and there. We've also had the dense fog. The fog advisory has been lifted now, literally and figuratively, because the warm front, which was responsible for all that dense fog, has now pushed away to the north and east.
Finally. It took forever for that. You know, this was a perfect example of what happens. And I guess, we kind of forgot to talk about this over the last couple of days with this warm front. You would think with no snow cover, this front would have flown right up, and there wasn't really any kind of strong marine air. But you know what? It never mixed down to the bottom 1,000 feet of the atmosphere. Just never did.
Right.
And the result was you had White Plains was shut down, and we had visibilities down near zero, delays, and now we've got this mess. You can see on the close-up shot here what's coming out of Pennsylvania. This is that cold front that's going to start the ball rolling with the what I've been describing as sort of a stair-step decline in temperatures over the next 3 or 4 days.
If you think about it, Joe, we go back to this time last night up until now, and maybe you want to extend that till let's say midday tomorrow. We've had everything thrown at us, or will have everything thrown at us, but the kitchen sink.
Well, pretty much.
We started out this day with snow, as anticipated, or actually in the pre-dawn hours with some snow.
And sleet and some ice.
And I came across a term I never heard before over at the Weather Prediction Center in Washington, D.C., talking about the potential event coming up for us for, later on the weekend. And the difference between a snow with enough to shovel, a significant snowfall, and maybe one that'll slow everything down or whatever, versus what the forecaster, I forget who wrote this, said a conversational snow. In other words, you look out the window, hey guys, it's snowing, and puts a little bit of snow on the ground, no big deal. That's a conversation.
Well, it might be a little bit more in places down in the Mid-Atlantic states.
Oh,
so we'll see.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot up in question in terms of how this whole upper pattern is evolving. But we're going to get rid of this. And actually, with this storm that is going to be strengthening in eastern Maine and over New Brunswick, there is going to be a fairly significant amount of snow up in central and northern New England. So the skiers are going to love this up and through upstate New York,
Right.
much of Vermont, New Hampshire, and of course in Maine where it snows. That's just kind
all
of
the time.
Yeah, it's automatic.
It starts snowing here in October and it ends finally sometime in May. I think.
Right. Up in the lake effect country in upstate New York, you'll probably see some decent snows also up in the Adirondacks. But you're also going to see some snow, Joe, with this northerly wind that's going to be in play with the high up to the north that flows straight down from northeastern Canada. You're probably going to see some big snow amounts in some of the mountains of southwestern Pennsylvania and into West Virginia out of this. And that's what indicating up to a foot in some places there.
Quite amazing. And, today was in Central Park, today was day 54, the 54th consecutive day going back to the November 15th atrocity of the 6+ inches that they had. And ever since then, New York City, the immediate New York area, has really seen nothing more than just wet snowflakes and some pellets of sleet here and there.
And hey, if it winds up being the biggest snow of the year, it may it could very well be. We'll see. Long way to obviously a long way to go for that. But just you and I have both lived through winters where the biggest snowfall was actually not only under 6 inches, but there was a string of winters in the early 70s in New York. From 1970 through 74, where there wasn't a single snowfall. It wasn't until I think mid-February of 75 we had our first 5 or more inch snowfall in 5 years without it. So,
I believe it was the winter of 1994-95. The first and only really significant snowfall of that year was in early February. It was on a Saturday morning. I remember I was covering it on radio. And we had, or at least Central Park had, like 11 inches, and I think they ended up with a total of like 12 or 13 for the whole season. Had it not been for that snowstorm,
there would have been nothing.
There would have been hardly anything. And you mentioned one particular storm that did not hit until after the official end of spring.
I think that was, I'm thinking that was the winter.
The beginning of spring, I should say.
Right, it was like 97, 98. There was no snow in Central Park, no accumulating snow for the whole winter season, and then a 5-inch snowfall happened on the day after the first day of spring, and that was it. There was that was it for the whole.
I think it was an El Nino year.
Yeah, I think it was.
So,
by the way, I just brought this up just to show you up in the Northwest. You can see where Tacoma, Seattle, and Everett are. Imagine being a snow lover in those 3 cities and knowing that within a short drive away, there's a place, and I don't know what geographic place that is, that has an 87-inch print there for snow between now and Friday. And you want to bet that they have, they actually do have winter storm warnings up there, but there's a lot of times you'll see these big numbers up there, and you'll see just a winter weather advisory.
It cascades.
Yes, exactly.
For them, a winter weather advisory is anything below 3 feet. Probably.
Exactly. So here's the Joe. Here's the surface map tonight.
There's that loopy doopy warm front.
It just never made it through at the surface. It never did. It just
really
got
surprising.
I actually am too. It did sneak over Long Island because we did manage to get up into the middle 40s and even some upper 40s. But then as I was driving in and I crossed the Throgs Neck Bridge into this just absolute. I drove into a cloud, just a solid cloud, fog all the way up through the Hudson Valley. It just never, as I said, it never mixed down. So now you've got this first front that's coming through that's showing up on the analysis. Ahead of it, some thunderstorms. And then the second front, which is back now just about getting ready to go through Chicago, it's behind that we have this really cold air. That's not going to get here for a while. So we're going to just kind of shed... we're going to shed a few degrees tomorrow. And actually, in some places, Joe, it may actually wind up being temperatures may actually be a degree or two higher because in the parts of the Hudson Valley, some places didn't get out of the mid-30s.
Right.
So if it winds up going to near 40 tomorrow, that's actually higher.
Right.
But it'll be dry air and it'll feel colder because of the wind.
Yeah. We're talking about winds tomorrow, gusting to at least 35. I have not seen any technical discussions that said we'll probably issue wind advisories or something, but we're going to be awfully close to their criteria, I think, both tomorrow and also on Thursday. Thursday will be a lot tougher to take, I think, because we'll be behind that second cold front, and that's where temperatures will probably struggle in the mid and upper 30s. Add the wind on, it'll probably feel like the 20s. Then, ironically, the winds begin to back off or abate a bit on Friday.
Right.
Blue skies, bright sunshine, but on that day, temperatures are going to be in the 20s all day.
All
That's
day.
kind of wind chill.
I agree. All right, so you know what? The new NEM is coming out, and it's not out far enough. So in the meantime, Joe, I want to go to Europe. And it's so
I'd
much
love to go to Europe, too.
But it's so much fun to go to Europe when I take you there because it's free.
Yeah.
And you get to go to every country. All right? So we actually do have
Even Andorra,
we have a big storm.
which is not Elizabeth Montgomery's
That's right.
mother.
We have a rather powerful storm sitting in northwestern Poland and accumulating snows through Germany, Austria, Hungary. I did put up something on Facebook today. It was live from Severe Weather Europe of it snowing very hard in, was it Reichstag? Which is south of Salzburg in Austria. The snow was literally feet up and shoveled on roadways. All the signs were buried. The Central Europe, and actually even again Southern Europe, looks like there might be a little bit of snow going on tomorrow night in parts of Italy.
What you're saying
Southern Italy.
What you're saying is that the climate there was not exactly the best if the Von Trapp family was trying to make a run for it.
No, it was pretty rough. And this has been part of a lot of winter weather has settled in Central and Eastern Europe and Siberia, and that's going to continue.
Yeah.
But we've been talking about the fact that over time, with what's been going on in the stratosphere is going to cause the cold air to begin shifting further and further west. The big issue has been this, and I'll put the upper air up in a second, and then we'll come to our weather here.
Right.
But this is over the weekend and into Monday, you're seeing more snows driving down into Germany and eastern France. But late next week and beyond is when you'll start to get the cold air coming into Western Europe, and you're going to start to see snows in England and Ireland and Scotland. And I think it may just continue into the long range.
Right.
But there's this big upper high, and this has been key for us, by the way. There's this big upper high. Let me roll this back. Sitting. This is as important to our weather as that screaming Pacific jet has been.
Right.
That upper high is going to be breaking down somewhat and shifting a little bit further westward. And this is actually playing a role. This high is so strong that it's pushing pressures up into Greenland, which is blocking that cold air flow that we have here. And over time, this high is going to disappear, and I think it's going to set in motion later this month with regards to a colder flow coming down out of Canada as we get into the last week or so of January and get ready to go into February.
And to give you an idea, I think that by the time we get to Friday, there are going to be a lot of people who are saying, "Oh my goodness, it's cold." But when you look at the standards of the cold air that's coming in, yeah, it's coldest weather we've seen probably for this season on a sustained basis. But this is nothing compared to, you and I remember January and February cold spells, cold snaps, where the temperatures were struggling just to make it above 10 degrees.
Well,
I'm not saying that that's what's coming our way for February, but we've been spoiled. And so a reasonably good shot of colder weather, people go, ooh, if you think this is cold coming our way for the end of this week, I tell you, you ain't seen nothing yet. There's a lot of cold air that's a lot colder than what's coming, and we could see that.
You know which one? We're going to put up the temperature anomalies, and you know what, we'll get a little closer here to go into the eastern part of the United States. We're looking at the NAM over the next couple of days, and you can see this gradual expansion of below average temperatures. The cold stretch to me that stands out in my mind, and it's a Friday afternoon, so much of the area east of the Mississippi is below average temperatures, and this is what we're going to be carrying into the weekend, and of course then we're going to be dealing with storm threat. February 1979, going into the President's Day storm, which was the end of the cold. Those 3 weeks, I think, in my memory, were probably the longest stretch of weather that was really just brutally cold. You you had most of those. In fact, I think most of those days it didn't get above freezing, and the vast majority of the days didn't get out of the 20s. And there were a whole bunch of days where it barely got to 20. Right. And we had a lot of nights. This was in New York City, measured at Central Park. I'm talking about in terms of these highs and lows. But there were a lot of nights in that stretch with lows in the single digits down to 0.
Right.
Which means inland, it was brutally cold those 3 weeks. I remember Long Island Sound being frozen over, except for about 50 feet in the middle. I remember walking on the ice, not too far from Orchard Beach, because the ice was so darn thick.
That's a cold. There's a cold wave.
Yeah, I mean that. You don't see those very often. They do come from time to time, but those don't happen every year. And I always go back to the idea that a lot of there's some people seem to have this this sort of storybook idea of what winter is, and the vast majority of the time it's not really very much out of the ordinary.
And you're absolutely correct, because right after the end of that stretch was marked by the President's Day storm of I'm not talking about 2003, I'm talking about the very first President's Day storm.
Right, the 79.
Of 1979, which frustrated weather forecasters.
Yeah, because that was the model. That was a bottom-up kind of storm, and the very primitive nature of the models that were around just didn't even, weren't even showing it.
Right.
I can remember the day before that it was heavy snow throughout North Carolina and Virginia, and the primitive LFM model, which is what we had at the time, wasn't even showing any measurable precip falling. Right. It was snowing down there at like 2 to 3 inches an hour. Right. But no matter. Here's the new NAM just going out to 78 hours, so we've got another 6 hours to go before it's done. And we can start to see the beginnings of this southern tier system that comes out at Saturday. This is at 1 a.m. Saturday. You have a low in central Oklahoma. I got to tell you, Joe, and this has got me a little. We're not going to go. The NAM's not going to go out far enough, obviously, but I'm a little bit intrigued by the fact that the snow area that for this system coming out from where it is pretty far to the north.
Right.
I mean, it's got snow almost to Chicago, and I look at this and I think, well, how is at least the northern fringe of snow not going to get to New York City and Long Island and southern New England and the lower Hudson Valley? I mean, I don't expect an answer to that question, but I kind of look at this, and then I'm looking at the upper air from earlier. I just want to kind of compare this. I mean, it does have a pretty well-defined southern stream system here.
That's a pretty significant open wave.
Right.
And you almost look at that and you say to yourself, will that possibly even close off before it even gets to the coast?
Well, this is what it was 6 hours ago on the prior NAM.
Right.
Okay. This kind of north-south trough. It does look like at least the southern part of that trough is a bit deeper on this run, but we need a little bit more to we need more. We got another 6 hours here to look at, but I think I can illustrate this really fast. One of the big issue here is the fact that you've got this split flow. Now, this was actually what it looks like right now, so I'm going to get rid of this. Hang on. Folks can't see it because I didn't put it on the screen. I always have to remember to switch. Okay, so there you go. So that actually is what the upper air looks like now, where you've got this ridge popping up in the west. That screaming jet in the Pacific is getting cut just east of Hawaii by this big upper low that's formed east of Oregon and Washington.
Right.
So
it almost looks like a wall, Joe. Well, never mind.
God, Joseph. And meanwhile, there's that blocking high from
I hate to use that term, but it does look like a wall.
It does look like a wall.
Yeah.
All right, stop. Because you got this blocking high up from England pushing back to Greenland. So it's kind of wedged this little vortex in there, and you're getting this flow out of Canada to bring down the cold air.
Yeah.
So now let's move to, let me get rid of this, and we'll paste that. So here's the upper air on the NAM for early Saturday morning. And the issue, and
now we're at 78 hours.
Right.
Can we?
That's as far. We'll have the 84 before we're done.
Yeah.
But here's, let's say there's a little open low there up at 18,000 feet. So you've got this nice trough in the southern stream. The problem is going to be this northern stream. Is it going to? It has to get out of the way enough. This is the same problem we had back in December when we were dealing with that Mid-Atlantic storm.
Right.
This strong northern stream, this northwest flow that came down to just about New York City, just forced this thing to go straight to the east. It never could lift up, or at least couldn't lift up enough. And that, I think, is the critical question. Is there something up here? Is there some kind of shortwave up here that's going to come down and maybe just nudge this a little bit further to the northeast? I think that's the big question.
Now, is that's like a negatively tilted trough. It's not positive. It's maybe slightly positive.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll say north-south. It's kind of neutral-ish.
Yeah.
So I think that's really the big issue with regards to how this will play out as far as the weekend is concerned. But we're not going to solve that issue now.
No.
Okay. In fact, we're probably may not have it really solved until Thursday, in my opinion. And we may have to wait till Thursday to just kind of have a real handle on what's going to happen for the weekend.
The old meteorological axiom, the trend is your friend, and if you use that over the last couple of days now, the operational models, especially the GFS, which was suggesting yesterday a monstrous or semi-monstrous snowfall for the tri-state New York area, has now backed off noticeably because the push of that colder air is trying to push that, and there's no connection between that northern stream and that southern stream system. So what we're having is a storm that looks like it's going to try to back off and move more to the south. But again, this is the way it's been trending. We'll see tonight, later tonight, and tomorrow, of course, how it all pans out. And I think beginning tomorrow night at this time, we're going to start getting our really first solid grip on the storm track and also how strong this system is going to be and whether or not we will see something significant or substantial over the weekend in terms of snowfall, or whether or not it's just going to be a glancing blow. Still a little bit up in the air. I still had my little question mark over Sunday for the 7-day outlook, and we'll see how this all pans out in the next few days.
Carmine de Redita said, Poland, Germany, how about Long Island? He needs to go to bed. Well, we took care of you. Actually, I wanted to do Europe at the very near the beginning because we actually do have folks that watch from Europe and from England and from Ireland, and it's way past their bedtime. Okay, so I gave them a courtesy. Russ Fergala, nice to see you on board of Russ Fergala Landscaping. John Sears is on. Good to see you on.
Now, I'd like to know from Russ, your friend Russ,
yes,
a landscaper.
Yes.
And he does like snow cleanup, or when there's a big storm,
yes.
They can. I'm wondering what the landscapers in the tri-state area, how they're feeling so far this particular season, where there really hasn't been much beyond mid-November to clean up.
It depends. It depends on how you know about snow.
In terms of snow.
Well, it depends. Because some landscapers, actually, the ones that do snow removal, they may do, some do straight annual contracts. Mm-hmm. So in other words, 1 inch or 100 inches, they plow and they get paid a flat amount.
Right.
Or they bill by the inch.
Right.
Which is great in a season where you get 75 inches.
Exactly.
Not so great in a season when you get only 5.
Right.
So maybe they sort of split the difference to hedge themselves and do, half with an annual and half by storm.
Right.
I don't know.
When we have those big winters when there's a lot of snow, people are going like, "Oh, not another storm." We go out in the field or whatever, reporters. The only ones who have the big smiles on their faces are those that have to clean away.
Well, I remember speaking to a snow removal guy who said for years in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, okay, except for the odd winters here and there, you were better off billing on an annual basis because the annual snowfalls were, the average snowfall in that 30 year was 20 inches, which was 10 inches below the long-term average. Right. But since 2000, you were better off billing by the inch.
By the inch.
Yeah,
exactly.
So you're going to have the odd year where, it, at least so far, it's been the season where billing, the contract, the annual billing is looking a bit better than the per inch. Right. Okay, so you know what? We're going to go in a minute.
Let's see if we got to 84.
Let's see, we can go out to 84.
Let's see if we got to 84 yet.
See, only here on this live stream do you see actual live streaming of the NAM. Okay?
Right.
Some people put weather models on the air. We actually live stream them as they're coming out. All right? Which is... anyway, we'll just leave that as it is.
And I've mentioned this before. Oh, look at this, Joe.
That's very interesting.
It does. There is a closed.
Yes, that's very interesting. Yeah. Okay.
And now,
we can't go out any further because it only goes out 84 hours. But let's see what it looks like on the surface. I mean, you look, Joe. Look where the surface low is. It's up in northern It's up in north central Arkansas or northwestern Arkansas. Now, that's a little bit. That's further. That might be further north.
Do you think they may actually try to take that low and hand it off to something like along the Gulf Coast, perhaps? Or
well, here's the GFS, which had it down more into Louisiana for the same time frame.
Right, but it still had a pretty good snow shield going all the way
right,
north.
and here's the NAM. Yeah, I mean, look, has snow almost to Milwaukee and to Milwaukee and almost north of Chicago. Mm-hmm. It's pretty far north with that snow shield. Right. I'm intrigued. Let's put it that way. I'm intrigued. Okay. We obviously need to see more. It's way too early. We know what the keys to this puzzle are. We're just gonna have to wait it out and see. Is there going to be enough room for this to move up and bring snow here for Saturday night and Sunday? We shall see. Is this
going to be one of those cases where Staten Island gets like 4 inches of snow and the Bronx gets like flurries?
Well, there's going to be a sharp cutoff somewhere.
We've seen that.
We've seen that happen. The European would argue that there would be accumulating snow up to about Sandy Hook to just north of Trenton, and then west southwestward from there. That would be the northern extent of it. Maybe just, and when I say the northern fringe of accumulating snow, I'm talking about where it comes in and maybe snows for an hour or two and done on the northern fringe.
Right.
So that's what the European would argue. That's what the GFS earlier today would argue. There is one other thing I want to look at because the parallel GFS. Okay, there's been no new parallel GFS since 6Z. So, I'm wondering whether today was the day. There's two things at work there. Either there's something wrong with the parallel GFS, and because of the shutdown, we can't get but nobody can get in there to flip the switch to get it started again. Or did the parallel GFS today become the operational GFS?
So there's nothing. It's possible. If nothing has happened,
it's supposed to become the new operational GFS this month.
Where would we get the announcements from? NMC or WPC?
Well, maybe the person who does that is furloughed. I did shoot a message over to Bill Goodman, and he hasn't not. You haven't answered me, Bill. To maybe because he works at Upton, so he might know. So I'm waiting to hear from him. Maybe that's what happened, Joe. Maybe it's the new. Maybe the parallel is now the operational. So if somebody knows about that,
let us know.
Shoot me a message. Would be good to know.
Now we have limited time, so before we shut down, let's tell everybody about your YouTube.
Yes.
channel.
Okay. So tomorrow night at a couple of minutes, probably going to start at about 7:05. You will be with me, and so will Dr. Judah Cohen, who we have had on before on my YouTube channel, discussing the he's the guy to go to when talking about this whole polar vortex split in the atmosphere and what it means, what it doesn't mean, what it might mean, what it could mean, what it should mean, all that stuff. He knows. So he's gonna be on the show. We're gonna talk about all of this, its impacts. What he thinks the impacts are going to be for the winter, for the rest of the winter in Europe. We're already seeing impacts there, and I'll be right there. Yeah, I'm ready.
I said we're cutting it close now. So.
Yeah, well, he's got time. Dear Ivan. Anyway, so he's going to be on. So my YouTube channel, folks, at 7:05. For those of you who get my notifications on Facebook, when I do my live streams, you get the live stream. You get the notification that the post that I'm live streaming at that moment on YouTube with a link to the actual channel page. So that'll be there tomorrow at 7 o'clock. If you're on my app, if you're on the Android app, you can watch it from there. And I put the link up on the descriptor tonight to our video. There's a link there to Google Play. You can watch it from there. You can watch it on the Patreon platform. There's a link up on here as well. So take advantage of all of those, and it'll be a lot of fun. He's very informative, a little bit on the techie side in terms of the stuff that he presents, but we'll try to get it in English because there's a lot of stuff that it's above our pay grade too. So, all right, so that's tomorrow. Meanwhile, Long Island and New Jersey for me at the top of the hour. FiOS 1 News
and FiOS 1 News, Lower Hudson Valley for me, and we'll be back tomorrow on YouTube. Anxious to join in with our discussion about the polar
vortex,
and also back here on our Facebook page.
That's right.
Around 9:15 or thereabouts.
All right. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you tomorrow.